party peoples. Bobo here with the BrassReel brothers. Thanks for coming back for another episode of BrassReel Tonight. Man, I'm a couple minutes late here because we just had some crazy breaking news. Guys. So that's why I'm a little late. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to show up late for y'all because I know there's everybody's waiting. But this is crazy. This is crazy, guys. Scarlett Johansson has just now released that she's suing Disney. Can you believe this? Suing Disney over the breach of releasing on on streaming. So I can't believe this. I mean, I'm in shock. Now, I'm not in shock in the sense that she's suing the company now, or that she's suing the company in general for breaching the contract, because they did breach the contract. The contract was supposed to be in theaters. She was a producer of this film. She was wanting to make the money. She was thinking she was going to make millions of dollars off of this, and she didn't, because it didn't make the money it was supposed to make. One, because they released it on Disney Premiere. And if you guys don't know what Disney Premiere is, that's the when it comes out straight to theaters, and it comes out on Disney, but you got to pay $30 for it. So you have Disney Plus, the subscription, and on top of that, you have to pay $30 for Black Widow. And they did it with Cruella. They're doing it with a lot of movies now. So I understand why she's suing. I just can't believe that. I just can't believe that she's suing now. Like, she knew that they were doing this a while back. So she's suing after she didn't get money. So if she would have made money, she would have been fine, I guess, that's what's happening. But yeah, Scarlett Johansson is suing. What do you guys think about that? Suing. I mean, this just came out like as I was about to do the live stream. I mean, she's been with Disney for, we're going, 12, 13, 14 years now, considering when they first started filming. Well, I guess not, because she didn't join until Iron Man 2. So definitely at least 10 years. I mean, but I feel like it's more than that, because yeah, it's been longer than that. So that's like her family, and now she's suing. That's a big deal. You guys think that Disney's going to pay her? You think that they're going to be like, yeah, we messed up. Sorry. You should have made this money, because look, Warner Brothers is being sued by Legendary. And a lot of people don't get how this works. And I'm not trying to speak to everybody like they're layman's, but some people don't understand how it works. So just like Warner Brothers, they don't fund every single movie that they make. At the end of the day, they're a massive distribution studio. So they don't actually a lot of times they put like 20 to 25% of the budget down. So for example, Dune, like all the Batman Begins movies, all the Dark Knight trilogy, that stuff like that. Anytime you see Legendary in front of a movie, Godzilla versus Kong, all that stuff, the Godzilla King of Monsters, same thing. Anytime you see Legendary in front of that movie, you'll see Warner Brothers come up, but you'll also see that Legendary logo. And Legendary Pictures is the actual company that pays for these movies. They're the ones that are putting about 75 to 80% of the budget down. Warner Brothers usually comes in and puts the extra tack on, and it's just a deal they make, because when you're talking about millions of dollars, one extra million is a lot. And these guys are always working on loans. That's movies aren't just made. The studios don't just go, all right, here's $250 million, make the movie. No, they still get investors. They still get producers. They still have other companies that are investor companies that invest solely in movies to do this. So when HBO Max decided that all their Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers is HBO Max, all the Warner Brothers releases for this year, we're going to go straight to HBO Max and theaters. Yeah, that's cool for the consumer. People like me, I mean, next weekend, Suicide Squad's coming out, we'll get into that in a minute. But I understand from Legendary Pictures' perspective, those guys want to make some money. They want to get what they planned on doing, which is starting franchises with these things, with Godzilla and all that. And like Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises. Those movies were banking on the success of theaters. And you can't make theater. You can't make millions of dollars and you can't hit billions of dollars in sales for a movie just with streaming. You just can't do it. There's no way. Because you what you pay for streaming in a month is what you might pay for one movie ticket. But there's the whole experience that goes along with going to the movies, the big screen, the popcorn, the smell, the audience engagement. So I understand why Scarlett's suing. I'm just surprised that she's suing now because she's known this has been going to be coming out on Disney Premiere for a while. But I think it's because she saw the numbers and how it just did not have the success that it needed to have. Now, is that because of Disney Premiere solely? Or is it because Black Widow took a different tone than the rest of the Marvel movies it had? I mean, I think that both could be said. I do like Black Widow. The more that I think about the film, the better I think that I like it. And I know that I'm going to enjoy it more a second time. But it's definitely not the same of what we've seen in Marvel recently. It's definitely not that wham bam giddy childlike superhero stuff that I've been talking about, like the way I felt after Captain America Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame. It's still a Marvel movie. It still has that Marvel vibe, still has that Marvel feel, still feels like it exists in that universe. It just doesn't have the superpowers. And maybe that's what was lacking. Maybe that's what people still want to see the most. Maybe that's what really gives us the chills, that fantasy, that idea of not being able to do something like that in real life. So we want to connect to it. You know, if you look at Black Widow, outside of maybe the mind control and stuff like that, she's sort of just like the best Olympic athlete that ever existed. She can do all these crazy things. And one could believe that one could strive to get to that point, sort of like Batman. You could believe that maybe this guy could exist. Whereas some of the superhero stuff, you know it couldn't exist, and maybe that's why it's so fascinating. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about that because it just came out. Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson suing Disney for breach of the contract because they released it on streaming and video before it was, you know, out of theaters, which they did lose a lot of money on that. They've admitted it. Everybody knows it. We all knew it was going to be that way to begin with. And let's face it too, Godzilla versus Kong is a movie that is going to appeal to a lot of people like kids that want to see that on the big screen. Whereas Black Widow, I can guarantee you there weren't a lot of kids going to see that movie. And like I said, my stepdad, who loves some of the Marvel films, he really gets into them. He had no interest in seeing that, even though he knew who the character was. So there's something there. I'm going to always be personally biased on Marvel films, but I also am real. I'm also realistic, and I know what's actually going on in the industry. And what's happening is the movie's not well received like they wanted it to be. It's not poorly received. It's just not as well received as they wanted it to be. And they didn't make any money on it. And maybe it was because of that and the Disney Plus premiere streaming thing. Between the two, I do feel like they lost some money in this movie. Anyways, moving on. Some good news, some great news. He's okay, guys. Odenkirk is okay. Man, thank God. He's definitely in stable condition now. They've been reported after a heart-related incident. Now, I don't know what that means. I'm assuming it's probably some sort of a mild heart attack or a clog. You know what I'm talking about, a blockage. I don't know if you guys remember when Kevin Smith, that thing happened with him right before one of his shows, and he just felt dizzy and weird, and they took him to the hospital and like, hey, you just had a massive heart attack, bro. That was a weird situation. Kind of, that doesn't happen a whole lot, but yeah. Bob Odenkirk, I was worried, man. I'm glad he's okay, though. Definitely glad he's all right. I mean, you know him from Better Call Saul. A lot of people know him from Breaking Bad, and that's how Better Call Saul got started. But I love Bob Odenkirk. He's huge to me. He's an icon in the industry. If you're in the movie or TV industry, you know who Bob Odenkirk is. He's been in it so long, and he's done so many random, eclectic things that he's cool. He's just, everybody loves him. I'm not comparing them personality wise and style wise, but him and Henry Winkler are sort of or Henry Winkler. I always want to say Winkler. I think it's Winkler, but the Fonz. Those guys are extremely well regarded in Hollywood because they've just been so cool and come out with so much cool stuff for so long that it's just like you're grandfathered in now. You're a charter member to where everybody loves you, and you consistently do cool stuff and surprise us with new things. So I'm just glad he's okay. Glad you're okay, Bob. And like I said, had nothing to do with me wanting you to finish out season 6 of Better Call Saul, which I do want to see that. But what I cared about first was you being okay. So I'm so glad to hear that. I know your family and your wife and all your loved ones and friends are so glad to hear that too. So that's good news. Speaking on something, just a little quick streaming news, and we're going to kind of talk about streaming. Actually, I say quick streaming news. We're going to get into some streaming news real quick. Netflix, not only are they getting into the gaming, but they just released that they are going to start requiring vaccinations for all the actors and the Zone A crew in the US to be vaccinated. Zone A crew means the crew that's specifically working on the film and coming in contact and in and out of contact with the director and the actors on the daily. So that's kind of crazy. I mean, I don't want to say it's crazy, but that's big news. Think about that they're actually going to do that. They're going to enforce vaccines within the actors. I mean, the vaccine world the actor world, it tends to be a little bit more of a liberal world. So most of the liberal sides are into the vaccination. And they support that wholeheartedly. And, I think it's kind of funny to think about, a lot of times people expect actors and musicians just to do what they want. The fans are like, oh, they just need to do this because we need our shows and we need our music. They need to power through or do whatever they need to do to make sure we get our shit. And I think it's just interesting to think about someone thinking about someone else. Maybe somebody that's I know there's anti-vaxxers out there that are like, oh, these guys better just go ahead and suck it up and get their vaccination so we can get our movies and TV shows. I'm all about the vaccination. I've been vaccinated and I'm happy because of it. And I'm hoping that it goes that direction further, but I'm really happy to see that Netflix is doing this to get everybody vaccinated, meaning that everybody's going to stay healthy and we're going to still be able to get Netflix programming. Because look, as much as I dog on some Netflix shows here and there, and some of their shows do suck, they also have phenomenal content as well. I mean, some of their shows are awesome. Now, some of them aren't. Their movies tend to be a little less good, in my opinion. For some reason, I don't know what it is about their movies. I feel like they're kind of like Amazon. They haven't caught up to that blockbuster. They don't have enough experience under their belt to make those high quality blockbuster style films. Like I said it about Tomorrow War. Tomorrow War was great. I did enjoy it, but it wasn't awesome. And I feel like for what it was trying to do, it was a little too big for its britches, but it wasn't bad. And they sort of needed to get this out of their system to learn a little more how to make the next one even better. And it was, it was well received. The story was cool. It was just, you could tell that things like the story weren't quite tight enough. You can tell that a Spielberg wasn't attached to it. And I think I've explained it like that when Ryland and I talked about it, that they didn't have people, they didn't have anybody writing those characters well enough to where you just cared so much. And the exposition throughout the story was a little choppy, in my opinion. But I do feel like the next few ones they're going to come out with, they'll give them a couple more years and they're going to nail it. They're going to get on that train with making some AAA list blockbuster quality films. And Netflix will probably get there as well. But I do love Netflix's original content, which brings me to my next deal is Peacock. I'm a huge Peacock fan. Peacock is probably all right, I have a lot of services that I do watch just because this is what I do. But I definitely watch Peacock's in my top 3 for sure. Prime is like my go-to streaming service that it's kind of like a comfort zone streaming service. Amazon does have some good original content on there. Like The Boys, one of the best shows I've ever seen. I love it. Some of the best content that's on TV right now, or a TV show, not on TV. You know what I mean? On streaming, whatever you want to say. But it's definitely a comfort zone. I watch old movies on there. I watch old horror films on there all the time. Um, I watch old seasons of stuff that you just stumble upon because Amazon has everything. Now, for original content, I think HBO Max is king as far as quality. HBO Max, the quality of their content is amazing. So I'd say that, but Hulu now at the same time, Hulu is a good service for watching something the next day. So if I missed something on TV or I wasn't able to watch it on TV because I don't have cable, then Hulu's a great option. I watch things on there for the next day. So they all kind of have their specific individual niches. Disney Plus is just nothing but original content, and you've got huge IPs on Disney Plus. You got Star Wars and Marvel. I mean, that alone is amazing. But you've got DC on HBO Max. Prime doesn't have anything like that yet. They just bought MGM, so that means they acquired the rights to like James Bond, and I guess they do have Jack Ryan, uh, the whole Tom Clancy thing that's been going on for years, played by like 5 different people now, or 4, 5, I think. But Netflix, their original content is what they're going for completely. I'm pretty excited about what they might have coming along, but I'm most excited about Peacock's original content. First off, they've really, really hit a stride with subscribers. They've actually reached 54 million, and they're about to go international. That's huge. I don't know if NBC has ever been international. I don't know if you could get I don't think you could. I don't think you could watch Friends when it was on overseas. I know that you can watch it now in syndication overseas, but I don't know if when Friends first came out that you could watch it. Now, I'm not saying that they can watch Friends now with Peacock because Friends is actually on HBO Max, which that's a whole just licensing thing. But I'm not sure that whatever show was being released on NBC at the time that you could watch it anywhere overseas. Now you're going to get streaming. You're going to get original content from Peacock streaming overseas. I mean, that's pretty cool. And they're doing it on this thing called Sky Satellite TV. It's Europe's platform. That's going to give it a base to 20 million new households. I mean, that's a big deal. Meaning that 20 million new subscribers. If they have 54 million subscribers, I guarantee you that Europe immediately is going to latch on to getting all this American content. Not saying that we're better than them in our content, but it's just the way that we can get foreign content over here, like a lot of horror films. We love foreign horror films, a lot of anime, stuff like that. We can get on streaming platforms now that aren't based out of America. They're still based from overseas. So that's pretty sweet. And doing this is the same thing for them. I think it's a good deal for them because look, Peacock has gotten good. All right. First off, I don't know if you guys have seen Dr. Death. Dr. Death is fantastic. One of the best shows I've seen, definitely in the past. Like when I say best shows, something that was a TV style quality deal, and it's not a season. It's not a series. It's only one season. It's only eight episodes. But the quality of this is hands down movie quality. Every episode's movie quality. It doesn't feel like TV. It feels very dark. Christian Slater and Alec Baldwin are fantastic, but they're also always good no matter what they're in. Joshua Jackson, however, amazing. He plays Joshua Jackson was always a pretty boy. You know, he's from Dawson's Creek. He was in a bunch of early 2000s films. He's just got that pretty boy face. He's a sweetheart, and you know, he's always younger looking. Not only does he do a great acting job in this, but he transforms into different parts of this character because this goes over sort of like a 10-year period of this guy's life. And one of the reasons for me that I'm super into this, and if a lot of my listeners or my 6 listeners listen to this, if you guys are from the Texas area, you know about this guy, Dr. Christopher Dunch. And it's based out of Dallas. And he was a neurosurgeon or spinal surgeon, both, I think. Long story short, he was sort of like a sociopath. He was kind of like a mad scientist turned surgeon. He crippled and paralyzed multiple people, something like 33 patients that he just messed up. 2 of them he killed. Some of them he paralyzed. Some were actually quadriplegics. I mean, crazy story, but I highly, highly recommend this. I definitely think it's going to get some awards. And I do feel like because this and Boss Baby, they've actually gone up in their subscribers. And now with the and I know they say that about Boss Baby, but Boss Baby 2 was actually a pretty big hit for them. It actually gained them a lot of subscribers. It actually was something that they realized we need to release this on our platform because a lot of parents are going to let their kids watch this at home. It's a quick fix. And what are they going to do? They're going to hook up to Peacock. And that's pretty smart. Like I said, Dr. Death, Boss Baby 2, and the Tokyo Olympics, between that now, they've gotten to 54 million subs. And now with trying to get overseas, or which they are going to get overseas, they have the potential to get 20 more million, which let's face it, not every household's going to get it, but I bet you the majority of them do because like I said, it's something that's so like, whoa, we're getting all this American content now. So I think it'll be pretty good. And there's foreign shows on there too. And I say foreign shows, I mean like shows that are done where they take place completely overseas or something like that, you know, so everybody's got an accent or something like that. I don't know if I've seen anything that's completely in a foreign language. Maybe they've gone to places like Ireland where they still speak English and stuff like that. But anyways, I'm just happy for Peacock and all the people over there because that's another thing I meant to mention. NBC is owned by Universal. So Peacock just acquired that Exorcist deal. And I think I talked about this on my show a few days ago. They paid $400 million to get the rights for an Exorcist trilogy. Now, this is something that I didn't talk about, and I just found this out because it is directed by David Gordon Green, same guy who did the Halloween 2018 relaunch, which was a continuation from the first movie, and that's it. They canceled out all the other sequels. This one, they're doing the same thing. They're making a trilogy, and the first one is going to be, it's going to pick up after the very first movie, but it's going to be this many years later. So however many years from now and when the first movie came out, that's how many years it's going to be later in the actual film. And they're doing 3 of them, but the first one is going to come out in theaters. And then the second one, the second 2 are going to come out strictly to Peacock. They're going to do Peacock and theaters on the first one, but the second 2 are strictly to Peacock, which is telling you they want you to sign up. They want you to be like, hey, look, if you liked that first one, you got to come to Peacock to see the second 2. And I do believe that since they're planning it out, it's going to be a good trilogy. I think David Gordon Green knows what's up. I think he's got cool plans for things like that. One of the things I really like about him and what I liked about Halloween is that you can definitely see he's not rushing the whole process. He's got one, it looks like he's got one cool story, and then he really tries to chop that up and expand that into 3 movies. And because of that, the movies don't feel rushed. They don't feel like they have too much in it. And they feel like you can focus on the characters more. You can get into the ambiance and the tone of the film more. And you don't have to make the film boring because you chopped it up. You just don't have to rush it. I think a lot of times with massive and major characters like that, you rush it. And unless you're going to have a 2.5-hour movie, which some movies just can't withstand that length. Some movies, especially if it's horror, they need to be closer to that hour and 45-minute window. It just is better. And 2.5 hours, I mean, just look at it. It too, it was too long. It was just after a while, it's like, all right, you're losing me. There's a formula and a pace that horror films have to have. And not saying they all have to be the same, but there is something that they have to keep you reeled in. Anyways, I'm getting off topic there. What I'm saying is I think that David Gordon Green has a good idea of what he's going to do with this Exorcist trilogy. I'm excited that they're going to be starting to release stuff at home. Yes, I do like the theater and I do miss the theater. And I do believe that every movie is better in the theater. But let's face it, with all the content coming out now, none of us can afford to go to the theater for every movie. We just can't. I can't. I know I can't. I know y'all can't either, unless you're a gazillionaire or you own a theater. And they still haven't come up with any sort of movie pass thing that works. You know, anything that can actually justify the theaters doing it so they can pull in some sort of profit. They just haven't come out with anything that works or anything that's all that worth it or appealing. And I don't know if they ever will with the way the movie theaters are set up, and especially with the pandemic happening. Got a little let me get out of this. Got a little Dr. Pepper. Zero. I don't know if you guys have ever had that Zero, Dr. Pepper Zero. You know, used to all they could do was diet, but they figured it out now with Splenda sweeteners and everything like that. Stevia. Gotta say, it's pretty dang good. And I'm not a soda guy, and I don't like drinking things full of sugar, but that's got no sugar. It's pretty good. All right. Moving on, guys. Sorry, I had to take a little breather there, get a little nice sip of the DP. So Suicide Squad. Actually, let me back up. Let me back up. Let me talk about this one right here because this one got released this morning as well. And I'm got to say, pretty excited about it. Here we go. So we got the trailer for King Richard was released this morning. And Will Smith is playing Richard Williams, the father of Serena and Venus Williams. Now, it is a biopic about their whole thing, about their whole life. I think it looks pretty cool, but it does focus on him more than them two. I mean, it is going to focus on Venus and Serena for sure, but I do think that it is going to focus more on him, which is cool. It's been a while since we've seen old Will in something good. I mean, it's cool to see him transform. I think he transforms well into other actors. You know, despite like Muhammad Ali, I don't think anybody should have played that role. Just leave that one alone. And he's had some flops here and there, but I do think that, you know, this has a cool story to tell because let's face it, Serena Williams and Venus Williams are some of the two most amazing athletes to ever exist. And it's a pretty cool little poster they got here too. I like that. Classy. It's got the net. King Richard. They've been working on this for a little while. So I'm curious to see what it has to offer. I don't know if, like I said, how much it's going to focus on Serena and Venus's life, but we'll see. But the trailer looks good. There's a cool little line in there when some guy's just like, "You got the next Michael Jordan." He turned around and he's like, "I got the next two," which I thought that's a pretty cool line. So just wanted to bring that up. The new King Richard movie is coming out. And look, I liked Will Smith back in the day. Liked him for a long time. And Bad Boys 3 was good. I forgot that one was one that was kind of more recent that was a success. I actually kind of liked it the best in a weird way. Don't hate me for that. But I like Will Smith. I think some of these actors sometimes get a little bit too hot-headed, get a little over their head too much, which I get that. You get famous, you get an ego. That's human nature. It'll happen to anyone. But it feels like also that he's toned down a little bit. He's sort of stepped away and been like, "Hey, it's time to get cool again." Because you had him in this movie, which is going to segue me into the Suicide Squad. I liked him in this movie. And actually, I liked a lot of the actors in this movie. That's not what was wrong with this movie to me. What was wrong with this movie was the very cluttered plot line, not connecting enough to anything else in the DCEU, but it was supposed to. You could tell there were rewrites all over the place. You could tell there was complete studio meddling. And all this is going to bring me up into a bunch of stuff that I'm going to be talking about here in a little bit. But this movie, it's a mixed bag. There are plenty of things I like about it. I do and don't like Jared Leto as the Joker. Like there are moments that I love him, and there are other moments I feel like he sounds like The Mask or Jim Carrey or Ace Ventura or something. It's weird. But this movie, the new one, The Suicide Squad, is getting crazy reviews. 98% so far on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, it doesn't come out till next week, but a lot of people are able to see it beforehand. Hopefully one day I'll be able to get screeners and stuff like that and be able to see stuff or get screening options to see stuff 2 weeks ahead, things like that. But this movie is getting like off the charts reviews. In fact, so much good reviews is that they're saying that it's the best DC comic film. They're saying it is the best one to come out yet, not just in the DCEU, but the best movie that DC has produced. Now, when you look at the cover for this, it's kind of hard to think that really this movie is going to be the best one that they've produced. But you got to remember what James Gunn gave us with Guardians. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Slither, but that movie is awesome. It's a nice little horror flick you should check out. It does have Michael Rooker in it. But I do think James Gunn has just proven that he's got an amazing sensibility for these type of movies. Now with the 98%, I can't wait. I mean, it's going to be great. Now, Joel Kinnaman, I think he's good. I think he's got a good look to him. I don't know how great of an actor I feel like he is. Honestly, I'm not trying to dog on the guy by any means, and I did like the RoboCop remake a lot. But I definitely like Harley Quinn. I definitely like Idris Elba. I've grown to really love John Cena. And there's so many other people in this. Nathan Fillion. There's just so many people I can't even start to dig into all the people they had just joining the cast. Flula Borg, that's hilarious. I'm hoping this is going to be as good as they say it is. The problem with all the hype is that sometimes you do get too hyped up with it, but I'm confident that it's going to be good. I mean, 98% on Rotten Tomatoes ain't no joke. And James Gunn does have, like I said, a great sensibility. So with that being said, they're saying this is their best one yet. I started thinking about this, and I it's because of an article I read, but I think we can all agree that Marvel is better than DC as far as the films are concerned. Now, whether you're a DC or Marvel fan from the comics, that's sort of an up in the air thing that goes back and forth. I think that every major comic fan has always had a preference, but always digs into the other side still. Like they still love all the other stuff. They just, like, for me, I think as a whole, there's more to love about the Marvel universe, but Batman is my favorite character of all time. And he's a lot of people's favorite character. I'm not acting like, oh, Batman, you like Batman? I mean, no surprise there. Everybody likes Batman. But from day one, from the beginning, Batman has always been just the best character of all time. He's always been the coolest. He's always been the most interesting. Oh my God, these fruit flies here in Texas are ridiculous. I'm telling you, I'm killing like 30 a day. And I've got traps everywhere. But I do, talking about the Marvel and the DC films, Marvel is got it on lockdown with the movies. There's no question they're better. They've got the whole, I mean, if you look at what DC's done in the same amount of time at what Marvel's done in their films, not only have they done 2 to 3 times as many films that DC's done. One, DC's always behind schedule. They say something's going to happen and it doesn't happen. And then they change their plans and then that doesn't happen and whatever. And then finally we get something comes out that's like, this is kind of like what y'all said you were going to do. Well, Marvel says they're going to do something. They're going to do it because they usually have a 5-year plan. They are way ahead of the game. And also it's made by fans. Now, I believe that both of them have great things to offer. Batman's amazing. Superman's amazing. Aquaman, believe it or not, is a great character. Flash is a great character. Cyborg, that's one they kind of shoot in there because he was just popular. He was a newer character that got really popular with people. I kind of wish he wouldn't have been in there. I wish it would have been somebody else like Green Lantern. It would have just been better in my opinion. But whatever, that's fine. They update certain things because you have to. But I think that two of the reasons that Marvel is better is one, because of their fans. It's made by fans, and DC's not made by fans. DC's made by studio execs. Marvel Studios was started out of Marvel Comics. It was started by Marvel Comics, and they started doing film stuff. And so everybody involved with Marvel Films, Marvel Studios, they're massive fans. Unbelievable fans. So why are Marvel movies so much better than DC? For the main reason, I believe it's the same reason that David S. Goyer said, and it's because they have consistent leadership. They never have switched anything. It's always been Kevin Feige. It's always been the Feigster behind it all. I mean, he was doing stuff for Marvel with X-Men and the Spider-Man movies before there was an MCU. And David S. Goyer, I don't know if you guys know who he is. This is him right there. He wrote the Dark Knight films, except for the third one, but he helped write the screenplays for all of them, I believe. And he definitely wrote the first 2 with Christopher Nolan. He also wrote the Blade films. He's done a lot of stuff for, I mean, Blade was a Marvel film, But David Escoro's done a lot of stuff for DC, a lot of stuff for them. But he said himself that they just never have had leadership that's been consistent. They every like 2 to 3 years, they have switched leadership, which comes with different creative decisions, them switching gears, them studio meddling, just like they did with all the DC movies. I mean, they've constantly had DC switching up things, switching actors, switching directors, or going over directors' heads after they've already had an almost complete film and telling them that no, you got to change it. Which just if you don't go through with what you say you're going to do or your idea or anything like that, it's going to lose stuff. When things are resculpted, they just you're taking away from it when you don't realize you're taking away from it. Even though you think you're adding to it, you're actually chipping away from what you had created. So let's say if you had like a big piece of wood that you're sculpting and you sculpt all this stuff away, all this wood away to create this cool sculpture or whittle, or you whittle something down, whatever. And then somebody's like, that's good, but it actually needed to be more like this. Well, then you got to start taking all this other stuff off of it more just to get the perfect shape that you want. So now it's smaller than you wanted it to be. All this is missing from the core that you had started. And that's what's happening with DC. DC is switching leadership. They just switched leadership again, like a year ago. Now, hopefully they can stay a little consistent. Hopefully James Gunn is going to be proof and he's going to show them, hey guys, look, I got something that works here. Why don't you just take a little advice from me and not make him like a major producer or anything like that, but make him learn from what he's doing and sort of take that formula and try to apply it to more things. Kevin Feige has had a formula. Now, the beauty about Kevin Feige's formula is that one thing in his formula is to have inclusivity and diversity. So he's going to have a lot of people that he delegates very well, but everyone that he hires, includes onto these films, they're passionate and they know what they're going to do and they have a great vision, and he has a vision as well. And when you have it just this huge collective and this army that they've built at Marvel, it's kind of like you can't go wrong. Now, I do believe in oversaturation, and I think that sometimes you can get a little too big for your britches as far as you're doing too much and maybe you're spreading yourself too thin. And maybe Marvel's on the brink of doing that a little, but I also feel like they're going to learn from that. And if they do go over the top and spread themselves too thin, I think they're going to rein it back in. DC doesn't know how to do that. DC just keeps on. I mean, look, half of these characters on here are from a movie that nobody cares about. And I'm talking about this picture that I have here. If you look at the top, it's all DC characters. And that's pretty much the main character we've had from the films. We've had some more. We've had like the stuff from the Harley Quinn movie, and we've had a couple more people from the Aquaman film that should be in there. And I guess Shazam should be up there. But for the most part, that's not a lot to brag about. And with Marvel, you just have way more. In my opinion, you do. And they're all more interesting. And now you have more coming like Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi is, I think, from what it looks like to me, it's going to be a pretty fun movie. And now for the big question that everybody's been asking, though, about Shang-Chi is, will it connect to the actual Mandarin? And I'm talking about the Mandarin, not Ben Kingsley when he was in part 3. That's a fake Mandarin. And that was something they wrote for Marvel. I mean, for the MCU. Now, that's the real Mandarin there on the left. If you see him there, this picture I'm showing, that's the real Mandarin in the comics, and that's what he looks like. Now, in the comic books, the Mandarin is Shang-Chi's father. And that little toy in the background is just a little picture there of showing you the toys they're making. But that guy on the left here, I'm thinking might be the Mandarin, because this is another picture of the Mandarin right here in the comic books. And if you look at that and you look at this guy, might be a little something there. I don't know. But I'm just hoping that the Mandarin's in this, because we've all been wondering, is it going to connect to the 10 rings? And if they do connect it to the 10 rings were connected to the Mandarin in part 3 of Iron Man. And they talked about the 10 rings even in the first Iron Man movie. And I think that'd be something really cool to bring it all the way back around, connect it all together. just add more to that lore and that juicy Marvel story we already have going on, because that's something they do continue to do in Marvel, is they do continue to open up more avenues from something that already existed. So they'll be like, well, what about this that was in this movie? Sometimes it's even accidental. They didn't even mean to do it from in the first place, but they decide, you know what, we're going to do this because I think this is going to work and we can turn it into something. And it usually turns out to be something pretty cool. So I'm saying, what if they connect it to Shang-Chi? The reason I'm saying, what if they connect it to Shang-Chi is because what if they go so far is to actually connect Shang-Chi, everything going on now with the Mandarin, going back to everything like that. What if they actually connect it to what if? And they start connecting the what if to the multiverse. And then the reason I'm saying that is because recently this picture was released of the Watcher. Now, well, first off, you've seen these little pictures of everything right here. Like, this is a teaser, a little poster they had for the trailer of the what if thing coming out. And the what if you guys don't know, is a storyline in the comic books that they did for a while. And every month you'd have this new what if issue. And it was like, what if and so the Punisher killed the Marvel universe? What if Daredevil or Matt Murdock got bit by the spider and he was Spider-Man and stuff like that? And it just changes this one little thing and turns it into something else to see what could have actually happened because of that one little thing changing. And I'm wondering now, this picture of the Watcher's been in the background, and the whole thing with the Watcher's sort of creating this what if storylines in the multiverse in the comics. Well, now they just showed this picture as an advertisement of the new what if deal. And it's apparently like him watching over the multiverse, watching over everything. Now, I don't want to read too much into this. I don't know that they are really going to connect the what if show to the multiverse. But what if they actually do? What if it's one thing? What if we see like a Into the Spider-Verse or a cartoon moment show up in these multiverse movies that we're about to have, like No Way Home and Doctor Strange 2? I think the likelihood is pretty low. I don't think it is going to happen. But, what if? What if it did happen? That'd be kind of cool. And if they did it, I really don't think that they would do it for any longer than the movies would be into this multiverse spin, because I don't think the multiverse thing is something that's going to last forever. I think it is something that's going to cool off. It's going to be sort of an event build up type thing. And after a few movies, it'll cool off and things will get back to normal, because if you just have multiverse all the time, that's just too much. You need things to get back to normal so they can get crazy again. You can't have things just crazy all the time. Then you get desensitized to it. But I'm just curious to see if they're actually going to go that far and do it, because I feel like Kevin Feige's even said on his own, anything's possible at this point. So what if we have that actual show connecting into the Marvel universe, that connecting into Shang-Chi, which is also going to connect into the Mandarin and tie that whole thing together? What if? Oh, what if? Well, I'm done speculating at this point, guys. I think it's kind of cool to think about, because, like I said, Kevin Spacey says nothing. Kevin Spacey. Ugh, sorry about that, Kevin Feige. That's terrible. I can't believe I just said that. Kevin Feige has said that anything's possible at this point. And with Venom coming out, the Sony movies coming out, Morbius, Kraven the Hunter, who knows? Why not? Let's do it. Let's just have a crazy party once and for all. Those parties where everybody's like at the pool and somebody takes their clothes off and it's like, let's all do it. Anyways, sorry. And on my last little thing to talk about today, guys, is we got American Horror Stories coming out tonight. And I just saw this a little while ago, this new poster for it. Oh boy. And it looks like, I'm looking at the comments here. Looks like my boy Rylan just texted, glad to hear Bob is okay. Yes, me too. Definitely glad to hear he's all right, man. That's definitely, man, that guy, like I said earlier, he means everything to me. I love that dude. But anyways, New American Horror Stories is coming out tonight, and it's going to be a Santa episode, which I'm really pumped up about, because I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, We had, let me get to it. Sorry. We had Ian McShane, who was a Santa in the season 2 of American Horror Story Asylum. And it was crazy when he was Santa in there. I mean, there's nothing like taking like that comfortable thing of Christmas time and turning it into just complete horror. And that's what they did in this one. And it just picks up right from the beginning. And I loved it. I remember it being one of my favorite episodes. Well, now they just released that Danny Trejo is going to be a Santa in the new American Horror Stories Tonight, which is just a one-shot story, but it's going to be called The Naughty List. And this is a little, that's a fake Photoshop of Danny Trejo right there, but I just had to do it. I think it's kind of cool. But this is an actual photo from the episode where it looks like a little gift box and it's got like a Santa mask or a Santa costume or something, but there's blood all over it. Who knows? There might be some organs in there, but I love a good holiday horror. Christmas horror, awesome. Anything that's holiday horror, same, because it goes along with the same thing as why I like camp slashers and horror movies down by the water and horror movies that are out on the ocean or anything like that, because there's holidays. It's the same thing. It's supposed to be a pleasurable experience gone wrong. And when you have horror mixing with something that's supposed to be pleasurable and it sort of taints it and ruins it forever. And I'm sounding sadistic here, but it's all just entertainment. But I like that in horror movies. I like when that adds to something. And like I said, the episode with Ian McShane and Asylum, that was awesome. One of my favorite episodes of all time. Super scary, super creepy. Imagery is terrible in it, but awesome. And I'm just excited to see if Danny Trejo pulls something off. Apparently, it's kind of supposed to be similar to that storyline a little bit, but kind of doing its own thing, more of a hybrid or a remake, which is fine. As long as they do something cool with it, it's great. And Danny Trejo, from what I understand, is really cool. It was sort of like a killer Santa in this. So that'd be cool to see if Danny Trejo could become like a, I don't know, like a new Kane Hodder or something. And he could, start doing killer roles or something. I like that because I love Danny Trejo. I met that guy one time at a Comic-Con and got a picture with him and all kind of stuff. I asked him how he knew Robert Rodriguez. I was like, hey, how do you know Robert Rodriguez? He's like, he's my cousin. And I said, oh, where'd you get all those tats? And he's like, in prison. It's like, oh, right. And anyways, he was a really nice guy. Well, that's all I got for today, guys. Just going over some stuff with y'all. And one more time, I just want to say, and on the coattails of what Rylan just said, so glad you're okay, Bob. So glad you are okay. God, man, that was scary, especially when we didn't hear anything all day long about you yesterday. So, hey, just like you in here, thumbs up, man. Thumbs up to you, brother, and hope you're going to be good. Hope it's all back to normal in no time for you, a quick recovery. And that'll do it for today's episode, guys. Thank y'all so much for joining. It's the end of the week for me here because I take off on Fridays. I am going to go see some movies tomorrow night, or tonight even, and tomorrow morning. Got some reviews I'm going to work on. I am going to do a review of Dr. Death coming up because it's so good, but that's going to be a, probably more like a 15-minute review, maybe, just because it's an intense show that I really want to get into. And I want everybody to know about that when it's awesome. So if you haven't seen that, check out Dr. Death. But also, if you haven't done so already, again, subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you can help us make it to the top. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. And just remember, come back. I'm trying to think of my things to say and my taglines to say, but I'm just messing up here. Sorry, guys. Not doing so well live, trying to do 30 things at once. But remember, if life gives you lemons, definitely make some hot, fresh popcorn. And also, trying to fade this music in. Look for my review coming out this weekend. It's going to be dope. And join me next week, too, for Monday. Hopefully, Rylan will be back with me, and we can get that rolling. And we'll get y'all some BrassReel Tonight next week. Well, hey, guys, love y'all with all my heart. Have a good one.